My name is Daniel. I work as a night delivery driver in the quiet state of Maine. For years, I've been driving alone through empty highways, dark forests, and small forgotten towns. It's a lonely job, but I've grown to like the silence. It's the only time the world feels still. But last Halloween changed everything. That night on a foggy road near an old cemetery called Gray Hill, I met a white dog that shouldn't have existed. It started as an ordinary shift. October 31st, 10:47 p.m. One last package before midnight. The air was heavy with fog, so thick my headlights could barely cut through it. On the radio, a voice kept repeating, "Visibility warning near Gray Hill Cemetery. Locals are advised to stay indoors." I laughed to myself, thinking it was just Halloween nonsense. But the further I drove, the quieter it got. No lights, no houses, no signal. Even the GPS froze and went blank. The road narrowed into a tunnel of trees. Then, something appeared in the beam of my headlights. A dog, completely white. It stood perfectly still in the middle of the road, staring at me. Its eyes, icy blue, bright and reflective, caught the light like glass. It didn't move when I honked. Didn't run when I stopped the truck. I rolled the window down. "Hey there! You lost?" I called. No response, just a long, silent stare. When I stepped out, the dog turned around and walked toward the woods. After a few steps, it stopped and looked back at me, as if to say, "Follow me." I hesitated. But something deep down, curiosity, maybe instinct, told me to follow. I grabbed my flashlight and walked behind it. The fog got denser. The trees loomed taller. The dog kept a steady pace, always just far enough ahead that I couldn't reach it. After what felt like 20 minutes, the trees opened up, and I realized I was standing inside a cemetery. Gray Hill Cemetery. The gate was rusted and half buried in moss. I'd heard the name on the radio, but it wasn't even on my route. The dog walked silently between the gravestones, weaving through them like it had done this 1,000 times before. Then it stopped at one grave, a small one slanted to the side. I brushed the moss away and read the name carved into the stone. Emily and Daisy, 1995. I looked down at the silver tag on the dog's neck. It said Daisy. My heart skipped. The dog, Daisy, sat quietly in front of the grave, watching me. Her eyes were calm, almost human. For a moment I forgot how cold it was. The fog, the darkness, the world, all of it faded away. And then just as suddenly as she appeared, Daisy turned and vanished into the mist. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I drove to the nearest diner to ask about what I'd seen. The place smelled like coffee and old stories. When I mentioned the name Daisy, everything went quiet. A man at the counter folded his newspaper. An older woman walked closer and said softly, "You saw Daisy?" She told me that 30 years ago, a little girl named Emily got lost in a snowstorm near Gray Hill Cemetery. Her dog, Daisy, had followed her into the storm. When rescuers found them 2 days later, Emily was alive, because Daisy had laid over her, shielding her from the cold. The dog froze to death, saving her. Since then, people said that every Halloween, when the fog rolls in, a white dog appears on the roads near Gray Hill. Sometimes it leads lost travelers back to safety. Sometimes it just stands and watches. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The woman gave me an address. "Go talk to the caretaker," she said. The caretaker lived in a small wooden house by the lake, a mile from the cemetery. He was in his 80s, thin as a shadow, with sharp blue eyes that hadn't dulled with time. When I mentioned Daisy, he didn't look surprised. Instead, he nodded slowly. "You met her," he said. "Not everyone does." He told me that Emily had grown up and moved away, but came back every year, always on Halloween to leave flowers. She says she still hears Daisy's paws on the porch when the fog rolls in, the old man whispered. Then he looked at me and added, "Dogs remember things better than people. Roads home, faces, promises. That night, I decided to go back to the cemetery. I don't know why. Maybe to prove something to myself. Maybe to say thank you. The fog was thicker than before. I parked by the gate and walked in with a flashlight and a small bouquet of flowers. Halfway through the path, my flashlight flickered and died. The silence was deafening. Then movement. Shapes in the mist. 1, 2, 3. Dozens of glowing eyes staring from the darkness. My breath froze in my throat. I turned slowly, heart pounding. Then I realized the eyes weren't moving. They were reflections. Headlights from the distant road bouncing off the damp gravestones. I exhaled, almost laughing, until one pair of eyes moved. It was Daisy. She stepped out of the fog, her fur shimmering in the dim light. She came closer, nudged my arm gently, then turned and started walking away again. This time I followed without hesitation. We crossed the field, and there, parked crooked by the ditch, was my truck. The headlights were still on. A faint smell of gas filled the air. When I leaned closer, I saw it, a loose wire from the heater sparking near the fuel line. One spark, and the whole thing would have gone up. I pulled the wire out and killed the engine. When I turned around, Daisy was sitting a few feet away, staring quietly, tail wagging just once. Then she looked toward the cemetery, then back at me, almost like she was saying goodbye. I whispered, "Thank you, Daisy." And in a blink, she was gone. The next morning, I went back to take a picture of the grave. When I looked at the photo, the grave was there. But no dog. Yet, right below the stone, there was a single wet paw print on the ground. Fresh, clear, impossible. I showed the picture to the caretaker. He smiled faintly. "She's choosy about who she shows herself to," he said. Then he handed me an old newspaper photo. A little girl wrapped in a blanket, a policeman's coat around her shoulders. And in the background of the photo, blurred by falling snow, was a truck's headlights, angled just like mine had been the night before. I froze. The old man said quietly, "Some nights time folds in on itself. Promises do the stitching." A week later, I got a call from the caretaker. "She's here," he said. It was Emily. We met at the cemetery gate, each holding a small bouquet of flowers. She looked around 40 my age, her smile soft and tired. We walked together to the grave. She placed her flowers down and said quietly, "I still hear her paws on the porch when the fog rolls in." I showed her the picture of the paw print. She smiled through tears. "She keeps her promises," she whispered. Since that night, I've never feared the road after dark. Because now I know. Somewhere in the fog, Daisy still walks, watching, guiding, protecting. Some ghosts don't want to haunt us. They just want to keep their promise. Good girl, Daisy.